For as long as there has been television, there has been the bottle episode. It's a type of episode designed to save money by keeping the action to a single location and core cast. Budgets are slim, ideas have to be small. You'd think that this would be creatively stifling to writers. Well, think again. Sometimes, limitations can make you more creative than you've ever known. What's happening, people, and welcome back to Leon Unity, the creative community by Leon Films. I'm Petros, and I am an award-winning writer, director, and general filmmaker, both behind and sometimes in front of the camera, too. The creative process. That is the overarching subject matter which is meant to link in some form or fashion all the pieces that have come out on this channel in the last few months and hopefully years ahead. And there's a lot more to the creative process than many people think. For example, off the top of my head, take the bottle episode of a half-hour multi-camera sitcom. That might sound like a very limiting topic, which we will be lucky to get a few paragraphs out of. After all, the Wikipedia entry for bottle episode currently only barely goes above 800 words, and that total drops to a mere 230 words when you take away the examples given. For those unfamiliar with the term bottle episode and multi-camera, let me explain. A bottle episode refers to an episode of a TV show where, due to budget limitations, all the action is restricted only to the regular sets the series use week in and week out. And usually only the main cast is featured as well. In addition, bottle episodes can often feature little to nothing in the way of guest stars, or even reoccurring characters, because again, the whole point of doing a bottle episode is to try and save money for more ambitious or expensive episodes down the line. After all, a TV series is a series. It's multiple episodes across a whole season, not just one movie. Bottle episodes have been around as long as TV shows themselves have existed, and they're unlikely to ever go away, as the excellent 2016 episode of the first season of the wonderful Netflix original series One Day at a Time, Hold Please, demonstrates. The episode itself features a basic enough plot. The main character, family matriarch Penelope Alvarez, spends an anxious evening on the phone attempting to get through to an endless seeming series of holds and transfers to get approval for an important medical treatment she needs, while the rest of her family causes a growing whirlwind of chaos around her. It's a simple sounding setup to be sure, but in this case, it also allows the show to dig deeper into the characters and their issues. These include a young girl coming to terms with her sexuality, a young boy figuring out his place in the family, broken by a divorce, and especially a frustrated, wounded vet mother who has to deal with navigating the infuriating bureaucracy of a system that seems set up to cause nothing but misery and suffering to those it was only created to help in the first place. Hold Please has ended up becoming both critically and popularly one of the most memorable and strongest episodes of the first season. And this is not despite it being a bottle episode, but because of it. Now let's examine another example of the bottle episode, this time with a more old school choice, namely the classic season 3 episode of the series Friends. This episode, the one where no one's ready, features a plot where Ross is desperate to get the 5 other lead characters ready to leave in time and in proper fancy dress for an important speech he is set to give in front of a massive gathering of his peers. Except of course, this being a sitcom, Ross is of course constantly stymied by a series of escalating petty arguments, mishaps, and other hijinks, until eventually things come to a head when a careless comment angers his then girlfriend Rachel, and he must now scramble to convince her to even attend the event at all. Again, classic bottle episode setup. All the action is limited to a single set, in this case, the apartment of then roommates Monica and Rachel. It doesn't even venture over into Joey and Chandler's apartment on the set next door. The reason for this is that would mean new lighting setups and new camera setups. Because of the multi-camera setup style that they're using, they weren't letting any parts of it actually happen off screen, only implied, so people would leave one scene and go back. This episode of Friends features only the main cast on camera, so outside of a small use of a couple of other voices heard via an answering machine, if any of you youngins don't know what an answering machine is, go ask your parents, and also get off my lawn. The episode has to rely only on its regular players, which is actually not that much of a problem when you have one of the best TAM casts in terms of performance and chemistry ever assembled. And indeed, the one where no one's ready stands as one of the most popular episodes of the show's entire 236 episode run, because as a bottle episode, it forces everyone involved to dig past all the little tricks and gimmicks that an ongoing TV show can sometimes get too much in the habit of falling back on. Friends especially often did stunt casting or flying to another country for location shoots, or an unnecessarily elaborate will they or won't they storyline to get in the way of what made Friends the juggernaut of TV it became, the characters, and the way they all play off one another. That's not to say some of the romance wasn't actually fun, it was, but that's for another story altogether. All of this leaves us with 2 episodes of television that on the surface might appear very similar, but the deeper down you dig, the less true you will find this to be. What creates this illusion, in fact, is that both series employed the same production approach for filming known as MultiCamera. In practice, this is the use of a primary set or sets to anchor the majority of the action of any given episode, with additional special sets added as needed. Additionally, almost all sets used in such series include a primary feature, a key wall that is never seen by the audience, because where the said wall would exist in reality is used instead by the cameras. And give yourself a cookie if you know where the term fourth wall originates from. Speaking of cameras, another major feature of multi-camera TV series is deploying 3 to 4 cameras when filming on any given set. The outer cameras generally focus on the close-ups of the 2 most active and important characters at any given time in a scene. Meanwhile, the central camera or cameras are used for 2 main purposes: to give the audience a sense of general geography of a location, especially on an important and new one-time sets, and to serve a general overall point of view that can help anchor all the action that needs to be captured for the scene. And by deploying these 3 or 4 cameras in this manner, multiple shots and angles can be recorded in a single take, which then in turn allows for faster shooting during production and faster editing during post. All of this is vital to any series with a high output requirement. Not just sitcoms, but daily series such as soap operas, and it's of course extremely valuable in the use of a bottle episode. In fact, when we produced My Life as a Video Game, we often would use 2 cameras running at the same time to try and cut down on costs because we would have limited days with expensive locations. We shot the entire series in 9 days. This also can lead to giving the impression that all multi-camera sitcoms are alike, and there is nothing new or exciting to be done with the format. Yet while Friends and One Day at a Time may share certain visual traits, their ultimate output is very different. Friends is a mostly silly and exaggerated look in New York for Caucasian 20-ish-year-old singles in the mid-90s that eventually evolve somewhat as the characters age and begin to increasingly settle down as they enter their 30s. One Day at a Time, on the other hand, is a very socially aware series that is driven by the realities of being a minority living in modern-day America. Friends was never designed to be that challenging of a series, while One Day at a Time, by comparison, very much is interested in tackling in an open, honest, and humorous manner a host of challenging topics, including being queer, gun ownership, white privilege, etc. And yet, from a mechanical perspective, both Friends and One Day at a Time were produced and ultimately filmed using the same basic methods to create a series that can be classified in the same basic genre. Genre? Yet the ultimate results are very different when you look at each series side by side, which in turn is proof positive that the multi-camera format needs not be a limit on one's ambitions creatively speaking, which is ultimately the greater point we're trying to make here with this piece. No one right way to create. Whether you're a painter, writer, an actor, director, or whatever, if you engage in the creative process, it's important to view what you do with the proper perspective. And so, the bottle episode, on the surface, it might seem like a harsh limitation that would only serve to stifle creative output. The kind of highly regimented approach to producing an episode of TV that would surely lead to the same results again and again. And yet, I challenge anyone to go and watch the 2 episodes I just talked about, both of which are currently available on Netflix if you're really interested, and tell me that they're the same. Of course they aren't. How could they be? While both Friends and One Day at a Time feature a similar approach to making an episode, and both made use of highly talented cast and crews, the very nature of the series in question meant that they would have to generate a very different episode of TV. The Friends episode is the show at some of its most fleet-footed, making all of the various means of comedy the show deployed week in, week out look easy. Never mind that it took a strong writing room to take such a simple and straightforward plot and stretch it out in more or less real time, no less, in a way that never feels forced. Think about it. Think about the actors who had to work around the limitations of staying on one set at all times, and the production crew who had to create costuming and staging that was both funny and yet natural feeling, all under the stress of a 25 episode sitcom schedule and a stricter than normal budget since, again, bottle episode. And then there's the episode of One Day at a Time. Yes, it was a bottle episode, but this was nonetheless a key episode on a number of fronts for the series at large. This was an episode where one character confronts the truth of their sexuality, beginning a plotline that will grow increasingly and have major impact on much of the goings on of the remainder of the season, while another deals with peer pressure and stereotyping in a painful coming-of-age moment. And more than anything, the episode builds to a blistering monologue from actress Justina Machado that sears the episode into the brains of most watchers, including absolutely ourselves. There are a lot of laughs to be had in the episode, just like the Friends episode, but there are also plenty of painful and uncomfortable truths presented nonetheless in a digestible and still ultimately entertaining package. And it's that style that One Day at a Time did again and again across its seasons, and it stands as proof that form does not ultimately have to solely define a function. A comedy series making use of one of the oldest approaches to TV, made in the history of the medium itself, leads to a final product that is as fresh and relevant as anything on TV today. I remember when I watched Scrubs in the early days, I was so happy to see a single camera sitcom. And while I still think Scrubs is one of the best series ever made, it definitely stands to reason that there are some beautiful things still to come out of the multi-camera episode, which means that limiting your format isn't limiting at all, at least not creatively. But so what? Why should you care? Say perhaps you're some wannabe up-and-coming indie filmmaker looking to strike out and make a name for yourself. You don't have time to worry about some TV show made using techniques from the dawn of time. You're too busy to deal with the fact that you have almost no budget, no time, and maybe a couple of cups of coffee short of a nervous breakdown. There are so many obstacles between you and that final groundbreaking film that will forever redefine the very art of filmmaking as we know it forever. And the big epic in your head just isn't feasible. You cannot stage some big crowd scene with hundreds of extras, or shoot wherever and whenever you like, and you are ultimately forced to make do with a couple of rooms, a small window of time to complete everything, and a limited cast of actors to draw upon, and man, if that isn't starting to sound familiar. And I don't just mean my life as a video game, as it's black. Well, it's almost like there might be something in it for you, the hypothetical indie filmmaker, to learn from the lowly disposable piece of popular entertainment like the sitcom. Yes, I'm exaggerating to make my point, but I hope that the point does stand. That the creative process is neither simple nor straightforward. Because when it comes to the creative process, limitations are only such if you allow them to be. And if you take the right approach, you can turn any obstacle into an opportunity. So, taking all that in, creatives, tell us in the comment what some of your favourite bottle episodes are in television. Personally, I really liked an episode of Star Trek Picard that was used to great effect to grow and develop the characters, and the plot a little bit actually as well. What do you think? Are there any other types of episodes you'd like for us to cover, talk about, and how they can impact you as a writer or filmmaker or any kind of general creative? But don't forget to give a whack to the like button and consider subscribing to this channel if you want to stay all the way up to date. Give a ding-a-ling to the notification bell, that old notification bell thing, to ensure that you see when we put out new videos. Thank you very much to Shaun Kronenfeld, who wrote this episode, for our blog, which you can check out at leonfilms.net/blog. Shaun is a great writer, and we hope to see more from them on this channel and on the blog in the future. You can see their stuff on Twitter. Link is in the description. At Petros of Sparta for me, and for this channel, it's at LeonFilms on Twitter and Facebook, and at LeonUnity on Instagram and YouTube. So, assuming you're watching it here and we haven't uploaded it to Facebook or Vimeo. All right, let's get back to work and create new worlds.